there's this notion that we're left behind or we're not ready for the fourth industrial revolution or technology. And I'd like to debunk some of those myths and leave you with some questions as to how maybe we should be approaching technology from an African perspective. How do we use technology to do more with more people? It's just a single word, but a significant difference in how we approach and adopt technology. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the intro. I hope the coffee settled in. If not, I might be putting you to sleep. But I guess the objective of setting the scene, fortunately for me, is to maybe leave you with more questions than answers. And hopefully through the day, a lot of these questions get answered. And I'd like to click it to work. Focus in on obviously something that's very close to us, Africa. And I think that there's this notion that we're left behind or we're not ready for the fourth industrial revolution or technology. And I'd like to debunk some of those myths and leave you with some questions as to how maybe we should be approaching technology from an African perspective. And I think this slide kind of describes why it's so important. So on my right-hand side over here, what you see is the population pyramid of Western Europe, where each horizontal bar is a different age category. So 0 to 5 is at the bottom, and I think the top one was like 100 to 105. And the width of the bar represents the size of the population in that age group. And what you can clearly see here from Western Europe is that the population is getting smaller and smaller. And you can see because the bars are much more narrow at the bottom, there's much less young people than there are working people. And as a result of that, what most of the Western world is attempting to do is to solve that problem by automating. So how do I do more with less people? Because there simply are less people. So they're solving for that particular problem, which makes a lot of sense. And so what happens is when we look to Europe and the Western world to say, okay, how are they doing things over there? And we say, we're so behind. And we try to copy and paste. And we copy and paste onto this population pyramid, which is Africa's population pyramid. You can clearly understand and see why that's a big mistake. Because we have a completely different problem that we're trying to solve. So I think that we need to change our paradigm and say that we need to rather than use technology to do more with less people, it's a single word change. How do we use technology to do more with more people? It's just a single word, but a significant difference in how we approach and adopt technology. And if we really understand that this is the real opportunity, this bottom half of the pyramid, where we have a massive youth opportunity or risk, depending on how you want to see it, but can technology unlock this part of the population, 400 million people available to do good things. So the next question is, here's where I'm going to ask you guys some questions. These are 6 circles, 6 companies that we all know at the bottom. Take a guess who's the smallest company in terms of employment. Anyone take a guess of these 6 companies? Smallest. Uber's smallest, Toyota's smallest. Who's the biggest? MultiChoice. MultiChoice the biggest. Any other takers? Uber today, as of October last year, has 52,000 drivers, Uber and Uber Eats together. 40,000 Uber drivers, 12,000 Uber Eats drivers. So they're not direct employees, so it's a bit of a trick question, but they're self-employed and they're able to earn a living purely by a digital platform. Look at Unilever. All of us have Unilever products in our houses. Mass automation, and they only employ 3,500 people. Yes, there's an ecosystem around Unilever and all the other automotive guys, MultiChoice as well, but the numbers are staggering of what technology can actually do. And most importantly, what did it cost the government to create 52,000 jobs? Because if I went to the IDC today and said, I can create 52,000 jobs, give me 10 billion rand of your taxpayers' money, they would certainly give me that to create 52,000 jobs. Yet Uber did that in Silicon Valley, and they don't know Port Elizabeth exists where I'm from. And so technology is certainly an enabler, and it's how we apply it that makes the difference. Here's another question I'd like to leave with you guys. We don't have enough skills. We spoke yesterday a little bit about skills to answer your direct question to me. Anyone been to London? Been in a London taxi cab? I don't know if you know, to get a London taxi cab license, you have to remember all 25,000 street names in London. And part of the test means that where they ask you to go from point A to point B, and you have to go there by memory. That's how much skill you need to become a London taxi cab driver. And we all know today, to become an Uber driver, all you need is a smartphone. You don't need to remember any single street, plus it measures the traffic, and so you can be much more efficient than the previous London cab taxi driver. So are we increasing or reducing the skills to be more productive? We're reducing the skills. And I think that's a significant, again, opportunity. If we keep crying about how we don't have skills, maybe we have the wrong technology to use the skills we actually have. And so we should be developing technology to untap the skills we actually have and not try to upskill people to get the adoption of technology as it is in other countries. The next point I'd like to share with you is this notion that technology will harm us. And the simple example is nuclear technology. So nuclear technology can be used for good and bad. It depends on how we apply it as humans. So obviously we can create a nuclear bomb, which is really bad, and we can use nuclear power, which is really good. So the technology in itself is not deterministic. We as humans determine the outcome. And so how we apply AI, although AI has got one caveat in that it does reason, so I think we have to be very cautious about that. But at the end of the day, at this stage, we still determine the outcome of the technology. It's not going to be taking jobs if we apply it correctly. And the next few slides are more business related than manufacturing related. And I just want to share with you some interesting stats about these two companies. I think we all know Hilton and we all know Airbnb. So Hilton has, this is probably 2 or 3 years old, but probably around 775,000 rooms available on their network. Airbnb has got now, more recently, sort of 2.2, 2.3 million rooms available on their network. It basically costs Hilton around $210,000 to build one room, and it basically costs Airbnb $0 to build one room. And what's happened is that Hilton is very upset with with Airbnb for, cannibalizing a lot of their business. But basically what's happened is Hilton has been playing soccer. Airbnb decided to play rugby and picked up the ball and ran with it. We're all now complaining about how it's unfair, but it's too late. They're now one of the largest companies in the world, and they've completely disrupted the market by use of technology, right? So the other interesting thing is how we apply the technology. So this slide kind of shows you that Hilton haven't been sitting doing nothing. They've got online booking platforms. They've got integration to booking.com and all these other platforms. They've got big data analysis and this thing called surge pricing. So, for example, if there's a conference at Gallagher and there's a Hilton, they'll increase the prices because there's going to be more people. So they're using big data, they're using AI, they're using analytics. But why are they still often being beaten by an Airbnb company? And the reason is, what most of us fail to do in our factories is change the paradigm. What we're doing in our factories today is we're changing our operations with technology. So Hilton has now changed its operations. It's used technology to automate a lot of the processes that they would have done manually, whereas Airbnb is a digital business first. So they're digital first, and then they build a solution on top of that. Whereas with us in factories, we're bricks and mortar first, and then we add our technology on top of that. And so it depends on where you want to apply the technology. It's not bad to apply it on the surface, but if you really want a step change, a paradigm shift, you've got to start with the digital business model first. And this slide kind of, and to be honest with you, when customers come to visit us, I put their logo over here to say that the majority of the customers in the manufacturing space are sitting in this third industrial revolution. There are some interesting companies that are in the fourth industrial revolution. Tesla's a big question mark. And there's some South African ones, Takealot, Discovery, and there are a few others that have been really successful in building digital businesses first. And what we're trying to do in our company is, how do I transition from a third industrial revolution company to a fourth industrial revolution company? This is our company. By using technology at a business model layer, not just on the surface. And I think we've got one really good company. Unfortunately, it's not a manufacturing one. I think that we can learn from and maybe take some lessons from. I think this is a very famous picture now in South Africa, right? And I think it's so famous that it's got now almost a cult following, where kids are throwing. There's a kid in PE. I don't know if you know about it. It was on News 24 that threw 𝘂άρχ𝘁𝗽𝗍𝗱 theme party. So that everyone came in dressed as 𝘂άρχ𝘁𝗽𝗍𝗱 drivers. But what they've done is they've created a digital platform on top of their existing business, and it actually runs completely independently. And check out some of their stats. Launched in 2019 as a result of COVID. They were forced into it, right? After 18 months, they had 1.5 billion downloads of the app. Right now, they have 5 million. The most downloaded app in the country is a shopping grocery store. They basically have coverage of all of their 601 stores. The growth is incredible. They're still growing. 63% growth a year and a half ago, 47% growth 2 years ago, or a year ago. And just from 𝘂άρχ𝘁𝗽𝗍𝗱 alone, they're generating 10 billion rand. Just from 𝘂άρχ𝘁𝗍𝗽. And that's a digital business off the back of their existing business. So it is possible if we think differently. And what's also very interesting is they now employ an extra 9,000 people. It's added 10% to the whole Shoprite group turnover. 9,000 people have now got jobs because of this digital business that they've created. So again, to debunk the notion that technology will destroy the jobs. It depends on how you want to see it. And now, most interestingly, they're now taking on the Amazons, because now you can buy a TV. You can now buy big things from their 𝘂άρχ𝘁𝗽𝗍𝗱. They've got those little minivans that they're now delivering bigger products. So they're expanding their business and actually turning into a digital platform that is able to take on, that they've bolted onto their existing business, and they've changed the paradigm completely on how we view things. They've taken market share from SPAR, from Pick n Pay, from all these other shopping or grocery stores that we would have typically gone to, because they've built a digital platform and created 9,000 jobs. So with that, I'd end off, and I hope that sets the scene to say that we can use technology, understand our problem, and solve the problem with the technology, not try to solve somebody else's problem with the technology we have. Thank you.